welcome to the screencast. Today we'll look at Payara and how to run it on the cloud with the help of Docker. So if you look at this blog from payara.co.uk, they have made the Docker build scripts and images available on GitHub. So if you read this blog end to end, this should help you, kind of get an idea of what are the steps which are involved to kind of get this up and running on Docker. But what I'm going to show you today is pretty much an end to end flow of how you can get this up and running with an Amazon EC2 instance. So what I'm going to do is from scratch set up an EC2 instance that is a simple Linux box, pull out the Docker images for Payara, get it up and running along with a sample application. So let's get started. So this is basically the Amazon EC2 instance. I'm not going to dwell into deeper details of how to set this up, but still I'm going to kind of run you through these steps pretty quickly. So I'm just going to prepare an image or rather a simple Linux instance on Amazon EC2. So just running through those steps quickly. I'm going to just choose a free tier, few pretty much default options here. There are no major changes in terms of storage. 8 gigs just fine. It's a demo after all. Security group, I actually have an existing security group which I'm going to use. Review and launch. So if I click launch here, this should bootstrap my Amazon Linux instance. And yeah, so I have a key pair as well, so I'm just going to choose that and say launch. So it should not take too long before this state changes to running. Let's give it a couple of minutes. So after this particular image is ready, I'm going to start working with the specifics of how to set up Docker, which should be pretty quick, and then go ahead with the Payara specific configurations. It's going to be pretty quick all in all. So alright, so just waiting for the status checks. In the meanwhile, if you look at a few specifics, you should get your IP and stuff like that. So I should be doing an SSH into this instance soon. Let's wait for the status check to change as well. This should not take too long. So in the meanwhile, let me set this up on my SSH client. So I'm going to do an edit session, change it, and I think the user should be the same EC2 user. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead with that. And also remember that I'm using a public private key pair in this case. So yeah, let me just bootstrap this, log into this instance. Yep. Okay, so if you look at the instruction here, it says sudo yum update. So I think we're going to let's follow that recommendation and kind of update all the configurations in our. So I'm going to say yes. Should not take too long. And in the meanwhile, let's see if the status checks. Okay, they're still in progress, but not really hampering us in this case. So the update is in process right now with regards to all the OS packages specific to this environment. All right, I actually wanted to show this right from scratch, so there are no open loops or questions. So yeah, hopefully this shouldn't take too long. Right. All right, so the update portion is complete. Now let's go through the other steps. So I have a convenient set of commands here. So the next step, what we're going to do is install Docker, and it just involves invoking a simple command. So install -y docker. I'm going to just shamelessly plug and paste. Okay, that's completed as well. Now let's bootstrap or start off the Docker service itself. That's simple command again, service docker start. So yeah, starting Docker. Yeah, so Docker is up and running. What you can actually do is, if you do a Docker vs, or I'm sorry, if you do a Docker info, you should get okay, I don't see this running now. Okay, um, let's do a let's kind of add our user to the to one of the groups, which is called Docker, and kind of log out and log back in again, and then they'll start using this without sudo. So all we did was add EC2 user into this group called Docker, just to make things easier. So if we see now, so you see, so if you issue a Docker info command, it will give you an insight into the specifics of the Docker package which you just installed. So let's move ahead. So if you go back to the blog which I was talking about initially, so not the blog, okay, yeah, so basically the Payara Docker images are hosted on the Docker registry itself. So what you can do is simply pull them from the Docker registry. So the simple command is going to help you do that. So Docker search. So first let's search for the available images. Docker search Payara. So if you see, it gives you you have the full version and as well as the micro version available to you. So we are going to work with the micro version as of now, and kind of issue a command to pull that particular version, particular Docker image into our container. So simple command again, Docker pull, and this is nothing but the name of the Docker image. In this case it's micro. So let's go ahead and do that. Docker pull Payara micro. This should not take too long, maybe 30 seconds tops. Let's look at our EC2. Yeah, so yeah, our EC2 instance is pretty much bootstrapped completely in terms of status checks and everything else, other formalities. So let's wait for the Docker image to get pulled. All right. So basically, what's happening now is that the Payara micro Docker image is getting pulled from the Docker registry right now. So yeah, let's okay. All right. So we have our Docker image pulled from the registry. Now let's work with this. So now we can, now that we have the Docker image, let's start up or bootstrap the container itself. Now so we have a simple command for this as well, Docker run. Now let me go through some of the options which are kind of mentioned here. So the -name option helps you assign a particular name to this particular container instance which you're going to bootstrap. It kind of helps because each container instance which you execute is going to have an identifier, and you won't want to work with the specific alphanumeric identifier. So the name, of course, is going to help you identify your instance. -d, this is going to actually run this container instance in a detached mode. So if you do a Control-C, you're not really kind of stopping or exiting your instance. -p, this is important. What we are actually doing here is kind of mapping our host port, one of the host ports, to one of the ports which is going to be running within the Docker instance itself. So in this case, both are 8080 because I have planned to run the Payara micro server, the Java EE server on port 8080. You should see that soon. So yeah, this is basically a simple port mapping, nothing else. And yeah, this is pretty much the name of our image, and yeah, as simple as that. So let's invoke this command. Okay, so because we ran it in the detached mode, so this is up and running now. If you do a docker ps minus docker ps, this should give you a list of the instances which are running. So if you see, you have a container id which I was talking about, and you have a name which you explicitly provided. In this case, if you see minus name pmc, so our docker container for Payara micro is up and running. Okay, now let's attach ourselves to this container. So what I'm trying to do is, so a container, a docker container is nothing but a simple it's a linux container within a linux os, right? So so what we're going to do is log into or attach to that particular executing linux instance, right? So what this helps is, because we are running this in detached mode, so we have kind of we have to execute this explicit step to kind of attach ourselves to this running instance. Let's give it a couple of seconds. Okay, so if you see, we are now actually logged into our Payara Docker instance, and not on our EC2 host instance, right? So okay, if I do an ls, so we are in the opt folder. If you see, we have the Payara micro jar, and yeah, it's conveniently packaged with a prime faces showcase var. So once we start up the Payara micro instance, we can deploy this var conveniently for you guys to see a nice demo. All right, so yeah, that's pretty simple actually. So I'm going to do a java minus jar Payara micro. I'm going to give it an explicit port 8080 as I promised earlier, and I'm going to say minus deploy showcase.var, and yeah, I'm going to run this in a background just to be safe. So let's wait for this instance to get started. So all we are doing now is starting up our Payara micro server. If you notice, Payara micro has out of the box support for Hazelcast. It's pretty tightly integrated within the Payara core itself. So yeah, that's actually useful if you want to run clusters which are if you want to invoke Payara servers, and they would be automatically kind of clustered, because Hazelcast is kind of running in background pretty much as a service. So if you see, it kind of recognizes this particular instance, which is this particular Payara micro server instance, and it's kind of listening on 5900. So let's just scroll down and look at the latest status. All right, awesome. So if you see, it's actually loading our application, which is the okay. So yeah, it's actually already loaded. So showcase 5.2. So our war file is pretty much deployed. Now all we need to do is go ahead and access it. So right, so this is our public IP, http public IP colon 8080, which is our port, and yeah, showcase 5.2. Let me copy the context root. Yeah, this should bring up the prime faces showcase application. All right, seems to be working. So don't be alarmed by this particular error page not found. Yeah, if you play around with yeah, so basically this is an instance of an application which is running again on Payara right here for you. Okay, and so just to give you a quick before I miss this, so because this is running on port 8080, and I have mapped the port of the particular Docker instance to this port. So the Docker instance port 8080 is mapped to my my host 8080 port is mapped to the 8080 port of the Docker instance, which is the Payara instance in this case. So we have to go through another configuration. I already kind of executed that configuration in terms of a simple port mapping again. Now this port mapping is actually on the level of our EC2 instance. So in this case, if you look at one of the inbound rules which I have, so this is nothing but this is very specific to Amazon and the EC2 related configuration. So if you see, I have a very specific TCP custom rule which says please forward any commands on the 8080 port, let it go uninterrupted. So that's precisely why it is working, right? This is not necessarily very secure, but of course this is just for demo purposes. So yeah, I mean, this was a simplistic demo of how to get started with Payara on the cloud on Docker. So if you see, it's pretty simple, right? It just involved setting up an EC2 instance and executing a few steps to pull in Payara from its repository, which is nothing but the Docker registry hub, and yeah, as simple as that. So a few links which might be useful for you is GitHub Payara Docker, wherein Payara folks have actually uploaded all the Docker files. In this case, so you should be able to kind of download this and work with your local Docker instance as well, if you want. In this case, I kind of pulled the Docker images directly from the registry itself. So yeah, this should be helpful if you want to run a local Docker image with Payara. In case you're not familiar with Docker in general, you can get started on the basics. Even I'm not a Docker expert, so this kind of helped me get started and up and running pretty quickly. So yeah, this should be pretty simple. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this.